So to kind of start off, you look at it at page 2 in the little handout and looking at the environment itself. This is basically Photoshop right here, and I've opened up a file, and you have some menus, and you have some tools, and you have some some windows over here. So let's start with just talking about these here, and this is basic on 1.2 in the book. We're going to kind of share what these tools are, and these tools are used to actually perform operations, and we'll show you a couple of these as we go through it. If you look at these tools, they have a little arrow at the bottom of the tool right there, and each time you see a little arrow and you click on that, hold that down with your left mouse button, you'll see that it has a little flyout that actually shows you some more tools underneath of there. So every time you see a little arrow, you'll see additional tools related to that specific tool that we're actually clicking on right now. And so all these tools that can be used to manipulate data, to modify stuff. And you can see on 1.2 it talks about, you know, the different ways of doing it. Some are utilities, some are painting tools, some are retouching tools, some are drawing tools, and there's just different types of tools spread out throughout this whole thing. We're not going to go through all the tools, but we'll go through some of the tools and show you how they work. Now the other related options associated with this is the options up here. It's the options bar basically. And when you click on a specific tool, like if I come down here and click on a text tool right here, the options change to text-related formats. If you click on a paint tool, for example, a paintbrush tool, then the options will change to the paintbrush options. And that's the basics of using the tools themselves. Now, one of the tools on here is the zoom tool, and you can click on the zoom tool, and you can click right on the screen somewhere. If you click on that little tool right there, if you're following along with us, you can click on a plus sign, hold the Alt key down to go backwards. Now, I've written some of these zooming commands in 1.2c, where it talks about to zoom out, you use the Alt to zoom out, and then you can do a Control plus or a Control minus. And there's also a couple other ways to go about doing that. So if I just simply hit Control plus or a Control minus, you can see how I can zoom in or out to zoom into that screen. Another real useful command is a Control 0. That just takes you to the full screen view. So there's just a couple of zooming commands that we could use, and I've written a few other ones in there too that you might be interested in looking at. But to remember where those are, now part of this document is designed, it's basically your notes. And so when you have a question about something or something you want to remember, you can always just circle that little section on the notes in the little document here so that you can remember or go back and try it possibly at a later time if you needed to. So moving on a little bit, showing you this are some of the tools that we would use to do that and the options up here. Up here we have the menu drop downs, and some of the more important ones here are simply the select, the type, and the layer menus. And these are ones we use in the level 1 class more aggressively and more usefully. Some of these others are used for more higher advanced stuff, of course, but these are the ones we're going to focus on more right in the very beginning when we do the fundamentals class. The third area of the screen that's the most important are the panels over here. So these panels can be added or removed by simply going into the windows and simply adding or removing them this way. So if I want to click on an info panel, it just brings up a little info panel here, and you can see that you can see the physical location of the cursor wherever it moves around to. And you can collapse these by simply clicking on the plus sign and the little arrow and collapsing it back into the screen here. So that's just kind of a little bit about the panels, and these panels are used for lots of different things, for layers and color adjustments and various other things. So a couple of really important commands over here is the history command, but that's also related to the undo. And so let's go through and run through a little quick exercise to kind of demonstrate how this works. So if you want to open this up, you can do it with me, or you can watch if you're watching at this point. If I go to File, Open, and you can see down on practice number 2, on the little handout, it tells you that you can open up this file called Grand Canyon. So let's find our Grand Canyon here. There's the Grand Canyon file. So open up that file, and there's a picture of the Grand Canyon. And so we're going to run through a couple tools to make some change to this tool and then we'll go through and demonstrate how the undo command versus the history command works. So essentially, in the little procedures, I simply go to filter. Here's the filter up on the top here, and then it says go down to the sharpen, and then it comes down to where it says smart sharpen. And all that is, it brings you into a tool that allows you to adjust the sharpening of that image. And so as you can see, you can...
Can I interrupt you just for one
Yes.
second?
Mm-hmm.
Do you typically recommend that they have two monitors, one they can watch you and one they can bring up their own program?
Yes.
Okay.
A dual monitor would be best, and in some cases I actually documented this too, a laptop and a desktop. Or if they're in a training center, they can use a projector, a computer running the projector.
Oh, right. So
and then they can sit in the classroom and actually do that. And then I can also suggest that they can log in twice. So the master machine could log in once, and then the other machine can log in the second time.
Okay.
And I suggest that they do it in that order so that I know which account they're physically on. So if I need to see their screen, I can switch over to their screen, and I know it's the second one that's logged in is the one that I would go to.
Okay.
So anyways, in this, when you do the thing, you can actually undo this by undo the smart sharpen filter. See, it undid it that way. Or I can do a redo like that. And then I can also use the history tool to go backwards too. So if I go make it several changes, like if I want to go to filter here and go into the filter again and make a few more changes here, maybe I want to darken it or something like this, or I can say, okay, here, well, the history keeps track of each level back. See that? Each change that is made. There's my original, and there's my smart sharp. So the history tool is probably one of the most valuable tools, I think, in here, much more powerful over the edit tool. All right. So let me show you a quick little poll here. Here's a little poll that I'm going to, and so you see that poll that popped up? Let me launch it now.
Oh, there it is.
There you go. So you can answer that question. Which tool is the most valuable tool? Okay. And you can answer that on your screen there. Click on it, and I'll go ahead and close that poll off now. And I'll share it with you and show you how everybody answered. As you can see, that looks like you got that answer right. So little polls kind of keep the students kind of engaged and knowing that they're going to ask them a question. They've got to stay involved with it to some degree. Okay. So I'll go ahead and hide that poll right now, and I will take a look at, kind of move on a little bit, and that's kind of a little bit about an overview of how that works.